Hello there and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Deepa Robbins from DeeZinesByD, and today I'm going to be sharing with you a Slimline Florals card. Now this card uses the Simon Says Stamp Slimline Florals stamp set along with the Simon Says Stamp Magnolia Branches embossing folder. So needless to say, I'm going to be doing some Copic coloring along with some dry embossing. And I'm going to be creating this beautiful little card that anyone can put together. Just go ahead and follow my video here. Now, I know that this stamp set came out a while back, but I've only just got my hands on it now. And I'm going to be using this long floral element here. And I line it up by placing my die down and then putting my stamp on top of it and picking it up with my stamp positioner. This enables you to stamp your image such that it's not off center or not in the same fashion in that your die would cut it. Sometimes when you stamp something that's long like this and then you go to die cut it, it doesn't line up. So this is the little trick that I use to get it on there straight. Now, another point to make is I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. So if you're doing Copic coloring, you want to be using an ink that is not going to bleed because you are using alcohol inks. Some inks have a certain solvent portion that actually reacts with the Copic inks and smudges your image, as most people know. But if you don't, that's what happens. And the Memento Black ink is known amongst the crafty community, and especially those who Copic color, as an ink that you can just stamp and color with without having any bleeding. And you don't have to heat set it either. I know that there's also the Ranger Adirondack inks. Those are perfect for Copic coloring too, but you do have to heat set your image before you start coloring. And my favorite things also had a hybrid ink in licorice black color. I used to use that, and sometimes it works just fine. And I think that's just because I take the extra step of heat setting it. And once it's heat set and then I color, I don't seem to have any bleeding, but some people do have a bit of trouble with that. So 100% the ink to live by when doing Copic coloring is Memento Tuxedo Black. So as you can see here, I'm doing a whole bunch of coloring. I started with some violets, and I'm listing all the colors here for you. If you miss it, you can always go to my blog, and I'll be listing all of the colors there, and I'll also be linking to the supplies as much as I can. Now, I wanted to incorporate a couple different colors. I wanted the purple to really stand out in the flowers, so I'm using that for the main flowers. And as you can see, I'm using a really green, like a deep green for the leaves. But the first color that I laid down there was like a BG green. It was more like a blue green. And by doing this, you deepen the darkest part of your leaf. So I really thought this was a good color to use for my darkest color. Then I'm also going to use these other two greenies, blue and greens, I guess, and they're a little bit lighter. So I'm going to be using those on the rounded leaves here, and having a variation in the different colors in the leaves that you have by having two different sets of colors makes your image a lot more diverse and more interesting to look at, I guess you can say. It makes it pop. It makes it a bit more vibrant. So just like with having the purple flowers, or the two colors of the leaves, I'm going to use a different color on the flowers, the tiny little ones. And I'm using these peachy, orangey type colors. And that's because these are going to tie in with my background. So I actually used two colors initially and then went back in with this wire 02 to kind of deepen the middles of those little flowers. So next I'm going to come in with my yellows to fill in the centers of my flowers, and then I'll color in that bottom line in my greens. And I did want to note that I'm just using simple coloring here. I'm just putting my dark color down, and then I'm putting my lighter color to blend out the darker one. And as you can see here, when you have two colors but one that doesn't really blend in the middle, this is how you touch your two tips together in order to create that middle color. So you're basically blending your two colors to create the medium shade. So yeah, as I was saying, there's really no trickiness to this coloring at all. I'm just sort of putting down my dark color, then my second darkest color, and then my lightest color, and just blending them all out to get the final image. Now, my biggest problem is because I'm using such vibrant colors, I have a lot of darks or a lot of shading, but not a lot of highlights. So by using this Sakura Jelly Roll white pen, I'm creating little highlights on the leaves, which give it a bit more depth because you have your highlights and your shading. So next I'm going to go ahead and cut out these two images. So as you can see, I did stamp two of these images and colored both of them. And now I've cut both of them out, and they're very simple to remove from the die cuts. Remember when you're pulling up your tape to pull it up back on itself so that it doesn't ruin your image. And those are the two elements that I get. So recently I purchased this Concord and Ninth grapefruit colored ink along with a couple others, and I'm using it to color my paper. And I'm going to use the Magnolia Branches embossing folder from Simon Says Stamp to emboss that colored cardstock. And look how beautiful that image is. It really is different from the normal embossing folders that you have that just have a high and a low. It has an in-between, and it makes such a nice image that I couldn't help but use this one for this card. So now I'm going to work on building my card. So I'm basically creating my card base, and this is going to be a top folding card, but it's going to be about 6 inches in height. So I do have to cut 2 pieces of cardstock, which I'm going to do here, that are the same size. So this is about 4.5 inches across, and in width, and the height is 6. So that's one panel. And then this one, I'll make it about 6.25 or 6.5, just because I have to create a flap. So I'll move it up a bit to push it back to 6 here, and I'll create my score line. And this is basically going to be my flap, which is going to join the front to the back of my card. So you want that seam at the back so that it's not seen. So now I'm sort of figuring out where I'm going to place that floral element on the front of my card, and I'm just kind of tracing around the bottom of it because I'm going to cut this in a slanted fashion. So once that's done, I'm also going to mark on my card base a little bit above where I'm going to cut on the embossed piece, because I want to add this really deep green. I think it's I'm not 100% sure, but I know it's one of the deep greens from Simon Says. I got it in one of the card kits, and I've been using it sparingly because I really like this cardstock. So now I've created my like slanted portion at the bottom of my card, and I just pretty much have to cut it out and stick it on my card base. And because I made it just a little bit bigger at the top, so the height is a little bit bigger, it's going to overlap with my embossed piece, so that I don't have like any gaps. I'm going to go ahead and use the Spellbinders More Sentiments Glimmer Plate set, and I'm going to use that Happiest of Birthdays plate to glimmer my sentiment on the front. Now I'll just line it up here carefully so it goes like right underneath that floral element without being covered by the flowers or leaves. And once that's done, I'm going to be using some of the Spellbinders blush foil, which kind of goes along with the peach the grapefruit color that's on the embossed piece, and also the little peachy colored flowers that are in the Slimline floral stamp. So this is the final result of my glimmering. Now, as you can see, there's a bit of overfoiling. So I'm going to use this Couture Creations Detailer tool. And I got this from Simon Says Stamp also. It comes in handy when glimmering. You could also brush your finger over the top, like I just did there, to get rid of any excess foiling over your letters. And then this one just picks up anything that's around the letters. And there you go. There's the final result. Looks perfect, at least to me. Anyway, so I'll move on. And this is a little trick I like to do. I know a lot of people do this. Because I did color my cardstock here, the core of my cardstock is white. So the edges show up white, and just to kind of mask that, I'll just dab my ink pad along the edges. So next I'll attach the bottom portion, that hunter green portion of cardstock, to the bottom of the front card base. And once that's on there nice and well, As you can see, I used a really strong craft tape, the Be Creative tape, along with Tombow Mono tape runner. I cut off the excess that was off the bottom because there was a little bit there. And then I'll go ahead and attach the top portion, the embossed portion, in the exact same way. Now, especially because this is embossed, you do want to use a strong tape because you want to make sure that all the little areas that do meet with the card base are attached nice and well. So I have a bit of pencil marks there. I'm just erasing there. And I'll move on to adding that little floral element. So again, I'm using some of the Be Creative tape, and now I'm going to use some Barely Art glue. I just recently got this, and I have to say, I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence. I really like it, but it's got a bit of a learning curve because this glue is a bit more liquidy than normal glues, or I'd say the Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky glue, which I use, which is a little thicker. So it works well. I like the glue, but it, like I said, you have to kind of be mindful that it's a bit liquidy so that you don't sort of over squeeze the bottle. So I guess it's the pressure that you have to get used to. So I let it dry a bit there and placed some acrylic blocks over top to add pressure. And I'm now cutting off the excess bits. Now don't throw those excess bits away, they'll come in handy. I'm gonna do the inside of my card now. And I'm using this Altenew Beautiful Inside stamp set along with this My Favorite Things Twice the Wishes stamp set. And I like the Beautiful Inside stamp set from Altenew because it's just, it has a lot of versatile sentiments in it. And I find for generic type cards or cards that, you know, you don't really know who you're sending it to, they really come in handy. So I'm going to stamp that out using some VersaFine Clair Fallen Leaves ink. I thought the black might be a little too extreme, so I used the brown. And I'm showing you here that I'm using this double stamp scrubber. And I've used this quite a bit. I add some Ranger Bubblegum water-based stamp cleaner, which I absolutely love because it smells great. And I'm just going to scrub it on my stamp pad on one side to kind of scrub it, and then the other side to kind of dry off the stamp cleaner. And as you can see, my stamp is nice and clean. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use the My Favorite Things sentiment now. And I really just want that happy birthday sentiment. I don't want what's written under it. So I'll pick it up with my stamp positioner. This time I'm using my Misty. And I'm going to use some washi tape to kind of just block off the writing that's underneath the happy birthday. Then I'm going to use some Sorbet ink from Concord and Ninth. Again, I really like this color. And I almost made a mistake. Don't forget to take your washi tape off before you stamp. Otherwise, you're going to have a big splotch of ink underneath your desired sentiment. So anyways, I find that this Concord and Ninth ink is really good because it's on this kind of squishy stamp pad. It really picks up the color really well. And I've got to say, I think I got to get some more of these. I've been looking, but they're all out of stock, especially for like the nice peachy colors like this. Anyways, let's move on. So I'm going to use that extra piece of Slimline floral stamp at the bottom of the inside of my card. So I'm cutting off the excess here, and I'm not throwing any of this away. I'm going to take this to create a line on the top of the other side of my card. And I'm just going to actually connect these two because I don't have a full piece. And you really can't tell that they're connected or that, you know, there was any type of, what would you say? I don't know. I guess what I mean to say is that it pretty much goes well with it. And so I'll cut off the excess here, and I didn't even waste that little bit, so I'll show you that in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and attach the front of my card, or yeah, the front panel to the back panel like this. I line it up, and then I just kind of fold over that flap, and it should pick the card up just so that it sort of lines up, and you can see both sides of the card. Now here's how I use that extra little piece. I cut out the little flower bit That's there. And then I used the Jelly Roll pen again to kind of whiten the area around the flower image. Because it was part of the rest of the stamp, it had some Copic coloring around it, and the white jelly pen basically just covers all of that up, so it looks like it was just one flower to begin with. And I'm just going to add it here to the center of my card with some more Barely Art glue. And that's the inside of my card. So I can't be done without adding some embellishments. So I'm going to add these AB lolly beads. As I've mentioned in past videos, they're from Amazon and they're actually nail art gems. So it's not really something that you're going to say, oh, gems for card making in your search and find it. You got to look for nail art gems. And these are perfect sizes for cards. And I have to say the quality is really good. The price point is good, the quality is good, and the shine of those crystals is really nice. So I will link this in my blog. Go ahead and take a look at it. Just order one pack. It gives you like 5 different sizes, and I guarantee you you'll be happy. I know they're available in Canada. I'm not sure about the States, but go ahead and type in lolly beads for a search in your Amazon search engine for the USA, and you might be able to find them there too. So that's my final card. And I just wanted to add a little bit of pizzazz with some diamond stickles. So in the center of my flowers there, I'm just adding this there to create a little bit of sparkle. And then I kind of got a little bit carried away. I'm not really showing it in the video here, but I also took a Nuvo shimmer pen and I went over the flowered images on the dry embossed part of the card as well, which you'll see in the final image. So there you have it. That's my final card. I hope there was something in this video that piqued your interest and helps you on your crafty journeys or inspired you in some way or form. If you like my video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Maybe you want to subscribe to my channel or to my blog, which is also linked below. There's a bunch of different ideas there, and I'm also going to post a couple extra videos on here that I've made before that you might want to take a look at as well. That's all I've got for today, so I hope to see you again. Bye.